What is up, guys? It's time to draft once again. This is Fantasy Endgame, and we're on Sleeper doing a redraft mock with you. That means you can jump in here right now and draft with us. Just wait for that link to drop, and you can jump in here. Hopefully, some of y'all who haven't been able to draft with us lately can get in because you know how quickly it fills up. PPR, 3 receivers this time. So if you want to draft, you want to start practicing for the fantasy football season, do this all off season long. Get in there. There's the link. And Chris, you're at number 2 today. Gonna get a nice jump on things. I'm at the number 8 pick. Now, we also do underdog drafts, as y'all know. We do these usually on Sundays. We do best ball. Do you feel like you're getting a better handle on as far as the differences between the best ball ADP and maybe the redraft ADP? If you know better values here on Sleeper, or you're like me, I have way too many slow drafts and too many underdog drafts going on. Sometimes I get them mixed up.
No, I mean it's. I don't think there's a major difference between the ADP in most cases. I mean, sleeper ADP has gotten better for sure. It's still a little off. I have a pretty good idea now. I think of like where guys tend to go, so I usually can. I'll probably be able to find them okay in sleeper.
Yeah. I mean, it has been updated at the very least. That's a good thing. All right, looks like we're full, so let's get it started. CJB 603, that's the number 1 pick.
Go CMC. No surprise. I will go CD Lamb. No. Also, I think no surprise.
Yep. Another thing is we still got rookie drafts going on for some of our dynasty leagues. I know I got 2, maybe 3 going on still. I can't remember. They're slow drafts. I think 1 we're almost done with, and then 2 others. So it's like sometimes you have to reframe your mindset, right? Let's say, am I doing redraft, best ball, dynasty? But I don't really care. I'm drafting. I'm happy.
Exactly. It's always fun to draft.
Sam has a question. Sam Castillo. So asking, what is best ball? He just got into fantasy this year.
Well, first of all, welcome, Sam, and congratulations on winning your title. The first year back. That's always nice. Best ball is basically where you just draft a team. You don't do any in-season work. So you draft this large team of 18 players, and then every week, when the week is over, so after the Monday Night Football game, the computer basically says, okay, this is your best lineup. This is how many points you scored. And now you're not playing against one opponent. You're playing against your entire league, essentially. And then so it's just basically how many points you get that week. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the season is the winner. And then these days, most best ball formats are now tournaments. It used to just be like, hey, they first, second, and third, kind of like in your typical fantasy league, got prizes. Now it's like a tournament. So I think it's like the top 2 or the top 3. Probably, I think it depends on the tournament. Out of your 12-team league, let's say, advance to the playoffs, and then it's the same thing. Right? They create all these 12-man leagues out of that, and then you advance. It keeps going like that until the final round, I guess, winner take all. But essentially what you need to know is it's just draft only. You just draft the team, and then you don't have to think about it, which is what makes it great. You can do tons of them and then still play redraft and dynasty, and it doesn't interfere at all.
Right. And so Sam, I mentioned it real quickly, but maybe you already know this, but for anybody who doesn't know, so we right now are drafting live twice a week. Wednesdays, we've been doing this in Sleeper, just typical redraft mock, right? This is what your fantasy football draft might look like when it's actually draft season, like in August. On Sundays, we're doing underdog best ball draft. So if you haven't checked it out, you can see what the difference is. And you can actually jump in there too. We've had, like I said, just the other day, we had a draft that was almost half full of us endgame viewers. So you can do it too. And obviously, if you're not on underdog, you get an underdog. But let's get back to this draft. My thoughts of going double RB are gone now that Barkley and JT are off the board.
Double RB in a 3 wide receiver league, getting risky.
Only if one of those guys was available and the receivers I want weren't. But let's go at you. All right, so how about a dynasty question? G6. A lot of times we don't talk about a player before they get picked here, just so we want to, have that priming effect. But I don't know if J.K. Dobbins is getting drafted here. In dynasty, is J.K. Dobbins worth a third? So people are offering him a third.
I mean, I'm not. If somebody's going to give me a third for J.K. Dobbins, just give me the third. I mean, I don't know if you saw the 3 running backs you need and 3 you don't, but I posed the question there. Name me a running back in the history of the NFL that has come back from Achilles and been anywhere close to what they were before. And I even said in the video, the best example we have is probably Deontay Foreman, who these days is serviceable, right? When all the other running backs on his team are out and injured, the team could put him out there and he's serviceable, right? He's nothing special. He's serviceable. He can handle the volume. Like, what I mean, like, what are we really expecting from J.K. Dobbins? He's had an ACL. He's had his ACL torn and now his Achilles. Like, if I can get a third for J.K. Dobbins, just give me the third. Give me the third.
Yeah. I'll take the third too. It's people will always attach the name to their sentimental value, what it's been. Look, the dude was very talented before not just the torn Achilles, but also the torn ACL and all. It's just brutal luck, right? Brutal, bad luck, good player, but it happens. Take the third. Yeah. Take the third. Because then you could draft a rookie running back that might turn into something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, and exactly. And even if the third doesn't work out, oh well. Like, what did you really lose? And not many people. I know I wasn't the only, like, whatever you want to, like, content creator or whatever you want to call us. I know I wasn't the only one on Dobbins last year, but I don't think many people were as high on Dobbins as I was last year. Of course, we'll never know. I mean, let's not forget, in the one half of football he played, he had already scored 1 touchdown, and Gus Edwards scored 13 touchdowns in that same offense. So he might have been awesome last year. We'll never know. But now, after Achilles, I mean, Achilles, like, ACL, okay, I will still, like, I was drafting Brees in dynasty startups last year because I'm like, okay, he might struggle this year, but then he'll be back and he'll be fine. Achilles, I think we don't have any examples of guys coming back from Achilles and being as good as they were. We have none. So that to me is almost a kiss of death for a running back.
Yeah. And it's not like it was his first or only season-ending serious injury. That's the thing. All right, so you're got Lamb and Pittman. Nice start. Waddle. Okay, thank you for emptying my queue.
Yeah. I mean, it really sucks for Dobbins. I mean, the guy, I think Dobbins is a talented running back, and his rookie year, he had a nice end of the season. And then year 2, tore his ACL. Year 3, struggled to come back from that ACL. Like, had some okay games like the final weeks, but, you could tell he wasn't 100%. Then last year, it's like, okay, finally, he's 100%. He's going into a contract year. He's going to be great. And then Achilles. I mean, you gotta feel a little bad for the guy, because you can't be like, it's one thing to be like Christian Watson, always like tweaking your hamstring and being like, okay, this guy's, I mean, Achilles, ACL, that's like the most unluckiest, brutal injuries you could have. And to have both of them, like, I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah. But yeah, don't feel bad for him with him on your roster. Feel
Right.
bad for somebody else who's giving you a third round pick for him.
Yeah, you don't have to feel
Yes,
that.
this is exactly. Give me every day
Yeah.
Vidal, who might absolutely do nothing, could be a bust, right? Guy coming out of Troy, late round pick. But there's a path. There's a
Right.
path, and I don't see the path. And then talk about that same team. Yeah, don't get sucked into what he did in college, what he did, as a rookie, what he could have done before the injury. Nah, like give me exactly Vidal every day.
Yeah, and Vidal was the guy like in most rookie drafts getting him in like the 4th round. So, you know, you're getting a 3rd round pick for Dobbins. I think you just take it.
Yeah, I take. What about I don't. Keith's not wrong. Would you take a 4th round pick for Dobbins?
Yeah, I would take almost anything reasonable for J.K. Dobbins. I might try to squeeze out a 3rd because people do still, like you said, people do still buy into the names of players. So I might try to squeeze out a 3rd, but I mean, really, I would take anything because, I mean, how long does a guy get? Like, if J.K. Dobbins goes out there this year and does nothing because he's coming off a torn Achilles, what's his value really going to be next year? Like, are you getting anything for J.K. Dobbins next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question because, I mean, if it didn't happen last year, when is it going to happen? Just, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Just as you say that, Brian, surprised no quarterbacks have been taken until quarterback got taken by Brian Ibarra. 30 rounds without a quarterback. I mean, I think we've seen that before, but usually somebody gets taken in the 3rd.
Yeah, I think in your more, I always hesitate what word to use here, but I guess your more casual leagues where they're not drafting on sleeper in May. They're not watching fantasy football content at the end of May. You might even see QBs in round 2, honestly. But I think 4th round is where I'll start really considering QB.
Well, you know what? I wasn't doing this just because we're talking about it, but since I do have Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts is here, why not?
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
What's up, Marquise? Marquise will gladly give up a 3rd to get Bryce Young.
I look, if you can get Bryce Young for a 3rd, get Bryce Young.
Yeah, nah. I do kind of buy into the Bryce Young rebound season. Not just that he can't get worse, so he has to be better, but I believe really, I mean, just a franchise is the issue, not him. He was put in such a bad position. His best receiver was Adam Thielen. Not that I love the receivers there now, but at least he's got a legit one in Deontay Johnson, better coach, an actual legit coach. So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy into the number 1 pick just a year ago for really even a 2nd. I mean, we're talking about a QB who's still very young, who could still develop. I mean, remember, Jared Goff was the number 1 pick one year and had to play with Jeff Fisher, and he was horrible. And then he got Sean McVay and was much better. Now, I'm not saying Dave Canales is going to do that with Bryce Young, but I mean, Baker Mayfield was a bust and just signed probably the only contract extension he will ever sign after playing with Dave Canales. So I don't know. Maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something here.
There you go. I'll buy into it to some extent. Other John, what's up, Other John? Who has the best chance to be the QB1 other than Josh Allen? I mean, I think it's Jalen Hurts. You got any other names in mind?
Patrick Mahomes. I think people have forgotten which is crazy to say, or maybe just like desensitized to how good Patrick Mahomes is. Let's not forget Patrick Mahomes. If you look at, prior to last year, do I go there? Okay, hold on. Do I go? I was going to go Trey McBride if he fell to me, but he did not. It is a 3 wide receiver league. But I do feel like Andrews is pretty good value here. I might just go Andrews. So I was going to say about Mahomes, I feel like people have forgotten that Mahomes has thrown for over 4,000 yards every year he's played in the NFL. And other than 2019, when he only threw 26 touchdowns, and last year when he only threw 27 because he had nobody to throw to, he's thrown at least 37 touchdowns in every year of his career. He's gone over 5,000 yards twice. He's gone over 40 touchdowns twice. He's gone 50 touchdowns. Like, I think we could see Mahomes get close to 5,000 yards and 40 plus touchdowns this year. So I think Mahomes definitely has a case for the QB as well.
And it's funny, as we were talking about that, team one, right, after you have some Mahomes to get CJ Stroud. Now, I do see Diggs on the roster, so maybe tempted to get the stack. But I will not be surprised if we see Stroud going over Mahomes in a lot of drafts this year, just because it's like a trendy pick.
Yeah. It's the recency bias, the shiny new toy, the ooh, what could he do in year 2? And look, I understand the psychology of it, but it's also like arguably maybe the greatest QB we've ever seen. I mean, I know it's still too early for that. And again, a guy who has never thrown for less than 4,000 yards. Like sub 30 touchdowns is a bad year for Patrick Mahomes. Like has, legit, like, and look, he just added Xavier Worthy, just added Hollywood Brown. Hopefully Rashee Rice is not out the entire season. Still has Travis Kelce. Also he runs a sneaky amount more than people realize. Like, no, he's not going to rush for, 1,000 yards or anything, but you look at Mahomes, where is it? Even like he's run for over 300 yards in 3 straight seasons. Now, he didn't score a rushing touchdown last year, which is surprising, but every year prior to that, he had at least 2. So he gives you like a decent amount on the ground as well. So, yeah, I'm Mahomes over Stroud for sure. I think Lamar Jackson, probably another guy I would say that has the potential to be the QB1. Although I feel like Lamar, I feel like we say that every year, and then there's just this stretch of games where Lamar is like poop. He's just like, what happened? Like there's, like even last year he won the MVP, but it didn't feel like it, right? It didn't feel like he was like phenomenal all year, right?
No, I know what you're saying. It always has a couple of games where you're like, well, what happened? And I'm still over Lamar, but that's usually I'm not drafting a quarterback first or at least too early because I still feel like there's a top 5 of elite guys that I'm okay with any of them. So I don't feel like I need to be the first or the second to take quarterback. I felt like it was decent value there with Hurts, and I had Devontae Smith, so it's fine. And I didn't love the receivers that were on the board. That's the other reason. But yeah, there's just a couple of guys who could do it. I mean, do you legitimately think CJ Stroud could be the QB1 in fantasy?
It's going to be very hard because CJ Stroud, like you look at it last year, 167 rushing yards. Like just doesn't run. It's kind of like Joe Burrow. Like you remember Joe Burrow, the year they went to the Super Bowl, had a phenomenal season. And he was the QB3, which is fantastic. But what couldn't push him to be the QB1 over guys like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen that year was the rushing. That rushing upside. Like, yeah, in your 6-point passing touchdowns leagues, maybe he could be. But in like your standard 4-point leagues like this, he doesn't, in my opinion, have enough of the rushing upside to be the QB1. Could he be top 5? Could he be top 3? Definitely. But he needs doesn't have enough to get him over the hump, I think, to be QB1, unless like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, like unless all those guys get hurt, then he's just QB1 by default. So no, I don't think he has the upside to be the QB1 unless he throws for like he'd have to throw for like 50 touchdowns, which I guess he could do, but I mean, it's only been done 3 times in history. So
yeah, I wouldn't count on that. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Stroud. Maybe a top 5 drafted as a top 5 QB if he's the QB5 off the board and it's a good value. But I don't think QB1 upside is there. But speaking of Josh Allen, another Bills question. Don't love it, but I'll allow it. Who will lead the Bills in receiving yards? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's the guy that I just drafted.
yeah, he thinks Dalton Kincaid, which I wouldn't even be surprised. This is going to probably be one of those offenses where like everybody's probably pretty close in receiving yards. Like because I know they want Keon Coleman to fill that Stephon Diggs role. I don't think he can, at least not yet. Maybe he can develop into that guy, but I don't think he's there yet. Curtis Samuel. I do like the way the coaches are talking about Curtis Samuel right now. Like how they want to use him and how excited they are to use him. But he's not a guy that I feel like is ever going to lead his team in receiving yards. And if he does, it's probably not a good sign for the team. So, yeah, I don't know. I think whoever leads his team in receiving yards, it's probably not going to feel like they led the team in receiving yards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm on Kincaid, because I don't feel like there is a single receiver you can point to and say that's the number one guy, because I don't think they really have a number one guy, but it's by design. I mean, they specifically let Diggs go and didn't, do a whole lot. Curtis Samuel, no offense, didn't do a whole lot in free agency to replace him in terms of what Diggs has been to that offense. And I guess if I were higher on Keon Coleman, then I would say it would be the rookie, but I'm not. And I know you're not either. So, I mean, look, maybe if it was even if it was like an AD Mitchell or a Brian Thomas, who weren't like my very favorite receiver prospects, but even a guy like that, I'd say, okay, he could, with Josh Allen, get the chemistry. Like, yeah, maybe he could be the number one as a rookie. I just don't get that with Coleman. I also do think that James Cook is going to catch a lot of passes, and
James Cook might be that. Would it shock you if James Cook, like, would it shock you if nobody on this team hit 1,000 receiving yards, but they had like 4 guys in that like 800 range?
That's exactly right. That's what I'm thinking. It very well could happen. All right, I guess let's do some more quarterback talk. JSE, what's up? Do you think Bo Nix could surprise?
Could is the right word. I will say this about Bo Nix. I think he at least 2 things. Number one, he at least landed in a spot where he's probably going to be the guy from day one. Because I really doubt they're going to, like, who's the other guy? I forget his name, but he's terrible. Like, I doubt they're going to use that guy.
Zach Wilson.
Oh, that's right. They do have Zach. Yeah, but he's terrible. And then the other guy is even worse somehow. But anyways, so I think he will get a chance to start from day one.
Stidham.
Jared Stidham. There you go. He's so bad I couldn't even remember his name. And I do actually really like that they drafted Troy Franklin. It gives him some familiarity in the NFL. Like a guy like, hey, I've played with him. I know what he's going to do. I know how he runs routes. I'm not saying like Bo Nix and Troy Franklin are going to be some dynamic duo, but at least it does help, right? It does help. So, and he does have Sean Payton, if you believe in that sort of thing. So, Yeah, I think he could. I mean, certainly he could surprise because what are people expecting right now? Pretty much nothing. So if he does anything, I guess it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, not expecting anything great from Bo Nix. I think it'll be kind of a low flying offense, if you want to call it that. I think we're going to see a lot of short passes, dump offs, ball control. Um, yeah, I just don't know how many big plays we'll see there. So you never know. Ronald is a fan.
Yeah, look, I didn't hate Bo Nix as a prospect. I didn't think he was awful. I don't think he's anything special. Like I think his ceiling is like average NFL QB, maybe slightly above. Maybe that's not fair for ceiling. Maybe his ceiling is like slightly above average NFL QB, like Jimmy G, something like that. Like Jimmy G when he was like on the Niners or something, guys like that, kind of in that kind of range.
Yeah, fair. That feels fair with a little more mobility, but not really a running
Yeah,
quarterback per se.
right. So, and again, he's got Sean Payton. He did get his wide receiver from college. So yeah, I think he could definitely surprise.
There you go. Yeah. All right. This is officially a first. I know it is. I'm pretty sure I've never, but now I've come around. I have to again put my virtual money where my mouth is. Jameson Williams.
Oof. Oof.
Don't
I
know
don't know.
why.
I don't know if I can do it.
um, I don't know because look, I need a guy who I know is going to be out there. I did get Rasheed Rice. It feels like good value, but I also am waiting quite a while to get my third receiver, which I'm still going receiver here. I don't know. Do you feel seventh round Rice, knowing absolutely nothing, is about right, or is it crazy?
I'm gonna say it's. I think it's a slightly more to the crazy side than it feels about right. I almost took him over Stevenson. I was considering it, but I did worry that we would see and we did see it. Like we would see the Zamir Whites, the Javonte Williamses, the Jonathan Brookses, the Zach Mosses, the David Montgomery. We'd see all those guys get drafted before it came back to me. And I already have 4 wide receivers that I feel good about, so I went with Ramondre as my RB2. But I certainly considered him there. I think 7th round Rice is well worth any risk.
Yeah, I'm not sensing a half season suspension here. I mean, 2 to 4 games, maybe, unless something else crazy comes out about this other incident or something else comes up. I mean, you never know, but yeah, I'm still going to assume it's like 4 games max. But we'll find out.
Yeah. And it's funny how
Or it
these
could be.
things tend to just somehow go away over time.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It'll be like one of the many things where it's like, oh, I think was it the Kamara thing where it's like, yeah, we'll get to it next year. So it's like
Yeah,
nothing happens until the season's over or something.
exactly. So yeah, I still definitely willing to take him there.
Okay, fair question. Like again, not assuming it, but what if, right? So if the hammer comes down, the NFL, it's like, okay, 8 games, boom. If Rasheed Rice is slapped with 8 games suspension before draft season, is he worth drafting?
I think he's definitely worth drafting. Like, are you going to take? I mean, when we get to the later rounds, are you going to take? A guy like. Hold on here. Man, what do we do here?
Yeah, I agree. He will still be worth a draft pick, but it would have to be like the very tail end of the draft.
Yeah, towards the end for sure. All right, I know Mostert's probably only going to play 5 games this year, but he's my RB3. But yeah, like I think if they say, okay, you're out half the season, you can't draft them in the first, like in the single digit rounds even. I mean, you can't have a guy, sitting on your bench for half the season, and then he comes into an offense that where now Hollywood Brown has had 8 weeks, to learn to get used to, Mahomes, and Xavier Worthy, the rookies, had 8 weeks to get used to it, and now you're jumping back in. Remember, a suspension doesn't mean like, you go out there and you practice with the team all week and then you just don't play on Sunday. It means you're not even at the facilities, right? You're not even with the team for 8 weeks for the whole, for the whole first half of the season. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think still draftable, but not round 7 then would be like way too early. But I don't think we're going to see that. So,
yeah, I don't feel that, but things always change in the NFL. We'll see. All right, it's very nice. You got Dak to go with CD. Feels pretty good.
Yeah, definitely feels good there to get that. Dak.
What about
Mostert? Ridiculous ballot. Yeah, I mean, okay, well, define Mostert things. Is Mostert things scoring 21 touchdowns, which was more than he had scored in his entire career combined? Like, I'm going to think about that. He scored more touchdowns last year than he did in his entire NFL life. And he's not a spring chicken. He's 32 years old. It's not like it was his first year in the NFL. Or is Mostert things looking good for 3 weeks and then getting hurt?
That's a pretty Mostert thing. Yeah, I don't know. They're going to get
him, by the way.
They're going to get HN more touches this year. So,
like, I certainly think Mostert is worth it. Where I took him there right at the end of round 8. It's because, again, like, you're drafting a guy in round 8. You're not looking for 1,000 yards and 21 touchdowns. Again, you're looking for like give me some production, and hopefully by the time you get hurt, I've improved my running back room on the waiver wire.
Yeah, he's going to have to be treated like an RB3 in fantasy, I think. I mean, crazy, but
yeah, I don't like to throw out like, I'm not like Stephen A. Smith over here and like, or Chris Collinsworth. I think he's the worst at it, honestly. Like, everything that happens right now is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Actually, who's the worst at it is Joe Rogan on the UFC fights, because if there's a great knockout, like if there's a great knockout on Saturday, it is now the greatest knockout ever in MMA history. But what Raheem Mostert did last year has to be one of the most shocking things ever in like literally in the history of sports. A 32-year-old running back who had 18 career touchdowns in his life went out there, and his best season ever was actually the year prior, which is also random, where he had 891 yards. And he went out there and ran for 1,000 yards and scored 21 touchdowns. Like that does not happen. Like, how many even like elite? Well, I think I know the number. I think it's 0. Like, even like Emmitt Smith, like guys that were like, Hall of Fame running backs didn't run for like 1,000 yards and 21 touchdowns at 32 years old. Like, how does Raheem Mostert do it? Like, gotta be one of the flukiest things of all time. Top 10 flukiest things of all time.
So, guessing you're not projecting him for 20 plus touchdowns this year.
No, definitely. If I was, I'd be drafting him a lot earlier than the end of the 8th round.
Can he get 10?
If he stays healthy, yes. I mean, let's not forget that the year before in the same Miami offense, how many games he played? He played 16 games and he only had 5 total touchdowns.
Right.
The same Miami offense. So, yeah.
Now this, I agree with. There were some issues there. Waddle was banged up. Tua top 5 fantasy.
Again, okay. The thing with Tua, like at least CJ Stroud had 3 rushing touchdowns last year because he will sneak. Tua will never, like, it would be a crime if Mike McDaniel asked Tua to sneak headfirst into a line of 350-pound dudes. Like, it would literally be like, we gotta like see if this is a criminal offense. Like, you're having this dude who, for a while, we were seriously questioning whether concussions were going to end his career early. Like, he will never get you a rushing touchdown. He will get you very, very few running yards. It's just going to be basically like, the pocket breaks down, nobody is open, let me scramble for a little bit and then slide. Like, that's all you're going to get from him. So, again, he has to put up just monster passing numbers for top 5. Could he do it? Is it in the realm of possibilities? Yes, but that just feels like his absolute ceiling to me.
Right. No, it's like there's not a path to QB1. I'm realistic because he doesn't run at all, basically. And please don't, Mike McDaniel, don't ever have him do a quarterback sneak or run. I'm fine with that. But yeah, like you said, everything has to kind of break right. Top 5, maybe. That could be the ceiling.
All right. I feel like I kind of do regret not taking Rashee Rice now. I feel like my wide receivers are getting a little weak here. I can't say I love everybody on the board, so we'll just gamble on Dotson, I guess.
Yeah, it's getting thin already.
All right, this is an interesting one because we haven't talked a lot about it. And I know last year they drafted Charbonnet in the second round, which floored us. But it was mostly Kenneth Walker. But Charbonnet did have most of the, because we know Kenneth Walker will never be a prolific pass-catching running back. It's just not his thing. So going into this year, do you think it's going to be what we saw last year, where it's mostly Kenneth Walker with Charbonnet mixed in, or do you think we see more of a split?
I don't think it's going to be that different, despite the different coaching staff, maybe different offense. I think they're going to try to establish the run a little bit more, but I don't feel like Charbonnet really cuts into Walker's work. I think Walker's still kind of the 1A there. Yeah, Charbonnet is a better, receiving back, obviously. But in general, I feel like fantasy goodness is still going to be mostly Walker, which is why we're seeing Walker still drafted as a starter, and there goes Charbonnet, because we're talking about him, going as just kind of a handcuff backup type. Go Wicks. I don't know. What do you think? Are you feeling it's going to be kind of the same, or?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. It's why I'm not, like, I'll draft Walker at the right cost, but I also do worry. I mean, it wasn't like Charbonnet was bad last year. It wasn't like, like with all no offense with Tank Bigsby, it wasn't like every time he got an opportunity he was like fumbling or something, right? And like, because didn't it feel that way for like Tank Bigsby like earlier in the year? Like they would start giving him opportunities and then he'd fumble. Or he'd do something like terrible, and they're like, okay, we can't get this guy the ball.
Yeah.
Like Charbonnet was actually pretty effective when they gave him the ball. And he is a very good pass catcher. And he's a big dude. He's an explosive dude. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was more of a split. But I think right now you have to lean that Walker probably going to retain that lead role. But the other thing you got to worry about here for Walker is whole new coaching staff. Like we don't know how because we've seen this from Pete. We saw this from Pete Carroll before with Rashad Penny. Remember Chris Carson was coming off that great year. And we thought, okay, he's the lead back. And then they drafted Rashad Penny in the first round. And then we're like, well, there goes Carson, because they just took a first round running back. And then Carson was still the lead back. It's like Carson was still the guy until he got hurt. So Carroll doesn't seem to care like where he drafted these guys. I mean, so that's the other unknown here, is like Carroll's gone. If the new coaches like Charbonnet enough to give him touches, it could certainly happen. They didn't invest in these guys. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, that is a fair point, right? They might not really have any sort of a hierarchy coming into things. They just say start fresh, let's show and prove it, right? See who we like the best. But
right,
I like Walker. I think he's obviously a very talented runner. So I think they kind of keep their roles for the most part.
I mean, isn't that crazy to think about, though? That Pete Carroll drafted a first-round running back and then benched him for an undrafted or a seventh-round running back in Chris Carson, and then drafted a second-round running back and basically never used him when they already had a guy who, like, Chris Carson came off a great season the year when they drafted Penny. Like, it wasn't like running back felt like a need. He was great that year. And Kenneth Walker, if you remember, because you remember kind of like full circle, Rashad Penny got hurt, and that opened the door for Kenneth Walker to then come in, and he was great. And then they were like, yeah, let's draft a second-round running back, even though Kenneth Walker, a rookie, was great last year. Like, really weird. Like, what was Pete Carroll? Like, if I could ask Pete Carroll anything, those might be my questions. Like, what were you thinking on those picks? Like, what was your rationale behind those? Make no sense.
Yeah, well, that might be part of the reason he's not there still anymore. But yeah, it was weird. It was always weird. For what it's worth, Chris Carson in his heyday, he was a good runner.
He was. He's very good.
What's up, Brian? Better late than never.
Yes, better late than never.
Back to you.
Yeah, I need a running back here. Do we get spicy? Do we just take a handcuff? Let's just take... let's just take the guy I keep drafting late here, I guess, for some reason. Whatever.
Yeah, we're in handcuff territory, which Keith is a little tilted. He got sniped on Ty Chandler. Yeah, I agree. I think Ty Chandler is a very solid upside pick. I've been grabbing him an underdog. I think it's fair to reason that, the reason the Vikings went out and got Aaron Jones, not just because they needed another running back to replace Madison, but I don't think they really view or necessarily want Chandler to be an every down back. He's not the biggest guy and, got some limitations. He's a good runner. He's definitely a good receiver. But obviously they want it to be more like a 1-2 punch with him as the 2. I think that just would make their offense better. I mean, Aaron Jones is a good running back, but fair point. As durable as wet piece of tissue.
Is he more or less durable than Raheem Mostert, though, Keith?
Well, last year things changed, huh? But that doesn't mean it'll happen this year.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is. It's kind of. This is not like Raheem Mostert is so weird. Like, his career is so weird. Like, the guy only played 16 games once in his life. And then since he's gotten to Miami, well, he only played 15 last year, but that's because they sat him. They sat him the last week of the season, right? Like, he didn't play the final game. But he gets to Miami and suddenly the guy can't get hurt. It's crazy.
Yeah. Very weird.
Guy has 3,500 rushing yards. 1,900 of them, more than half of them, have come just in the last 2 years at the age of over the age of 30. Like what? What? Like Raheem Mostert like hurts my head when I think about Raheem Mostert. Like makes my brain hurt. Like this doesn't like my brain is like this is not right. Like you are telling me lies.
No, it definitely doesn't make sense. That's, I mean, fair point. We were saying CMC was injury prone. Well, we weren't saying that, but yeah, couldn't stay healthy. I guess do guys just learn to manage their bodies better, right? They just don't run as violently, or they just better off season training. Who knows?
You know what I think what I really think the answer is, as simple as it is. Oh, there's another round. I thought we were done. My bad. I didn't see this last round. All right, bring this back up. I think what it really is, I probably would not have taken Justice Hill there if I knew there was one more round. I think it's I don't want to say luck or bad luck, but look, it's football. Very few players like can go their whole career and not get hurt. Like it's very rare, right? Very rare. It's a very violent sport. It's a very physical sport, especially for a running back. So I think maybe it's just like, remember, CMC went his first 3 years never missed a game, and then he went 2 years where only played 10 games, and then he really hasn't missed a game the last 2 years. He did miss week 18 last year, but that was only because they didn't need him. I mean, he got banged up. I remember in week 17 he missed the second half, which is pretty tilting for everybody that had CMC in fantasy. I think he still got you like 15 points that week. But he didn't miss a game his first 3 years. Then he only played 10 games, and he hasn't missed a game since. So I think it's just kind of like bad luck, honestly, more than anything.
Yeah. Every player's different. You can't say, well, these players, this and those. Sometimes, like you're right, it's just luck. It's just bad luck. Guys just get hurt. Just freak accidents. Things happen.
And I do think a lot of times one injury leads to another because guys push. Because, all right, not to pick on baseball, but I am playing fantasy baseball for the first time this year. And one thing I've noticed in fantasy baseball is they are in no hurry to come back from an injury. They are in no hurry. If they're not 100%, they don't need to play today. It's fine. In football, like you might lose your job in football, right? Like if you're a running back and you get hurt, I mean, obviously Christian McCaffrey didn't have to worry about losing his job, but you get hurt and next man up comes in and is tearing it up, you might not have that job when you come back. Like these guys are like, get me back on the field. There's only 17 games. Get me back on the field. And so I'm sure a lot of times these guys come back, they might feel good enough to play, but are they really healthy enough to play? And then, sure, maybe they can play a game or two and they're okay, but then that, whatever else happens. So I wonder if that's also a contributing factor in the NFL, where these guys are pushing hard to come back and be on the field when they're far less than 100% physically.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. That's the big difference there. Is there's 17 games and that's it. They go by real quick. If you miss, a couple games, it's a big chunk of the season already. So, yeah. All right, let's talk football. And the draft is now complete. So let's start breaking down the teams real quick. Start with Team 1, CJB603. Welcome to the end game. CMC, Devontae Adams is Stephon Diggs. And then CJ Stroud, Keenan Allen, Kamara Jones, Kittle Hopkins, TJ Hawkinson, Mike Williams, backup quarterback, Jared Judy, and then Tyrone Tracy. This is a veteran team. This team was amazing, 2 years ago, minus CJ Stroud, of course, was in the league. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is easily, I haven't even looked at the other teams, but I know for a fact this is easily the oldest team in the league. I mean, Adams, Diggs, Keenan. Is Kamara 30 yet? He might not be 30 yet. Aaron Jones, Kittle, Hopkins, Mike Williams. They're all 30 and older. Very risky to have this much age on your team. Yeah, it just feels very
geriatric.
Yeah, solid, I guess, is the word. Solid is the word. Just very very obviously minus CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams. You go back in time 2-3 years, this team was a monster. But this year, I think this team might just be okay.
Yeah. Diggs is still kind of a big unknown. We're not on him that early. And look, I'll say, well, okay, I guess you couldn't have gotten. You did okay with what you had. I would have preferred someone instead of Diggs there. Adams, I know you wouldn't have taken there either. I'm okay with Adams early, but yeah, Kamara, it's just it's a little. It's not about the age itself, right? It's lacking upside. Okay.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, I know Kamara was good last year. When he first came back, he was phenomenal because he was getting didn't he have a game where he had 13 catches?
Yep.
Yeah, he had 13 catches for 31 yards, which is, by the way, the new NFL record for fewest yards on that many catches. He broke I think the previous record was 70. That's how bad it was. But of course, in PPR, that's a ton of points. But when you look at Kamara down the stretch, where was he here? Because you look at him over the season, you're like, man, 17 points per game, that's pretty good. But you look at Kamara down the stretch. Where is it? Week 14, 13 points, week 15, 16 points, week 16, 8 points, week 17, 6 points. He was really, really bad down the stretch. And you got to wonder, okay, without all those dump offs, how good could Kamara really be? So, yeah, just feels like a very middle team.
Yeah, but maybe not quite that old, but yeah. All right. Let's get to your team. It's never lacks upside, but at the number 2, you got CD, Pittman, Waddle, Cook, Andrews, Godwin, Ramondre, Mostert, Dak, Kendre Miller, the potential Kamara replacement, Dotson, Corley, Justice Hill, David Pierce. So you liked your 4 receivers, and I agree. Very solid. Like James Cook there a whole lot. Andrews feels like a pretty solid value. And you got a legit RB2. That's what's nice is you got your 4 starting receivers, again, meaning one of them's your flex, and a stud tight end, and you still came away pretty good at running back. I mean, you got to be pretty pleased with this team.
Yeah, I don't really I like my draft up to Dak. I mean, because it's nice to have 4 wide receivers I feel good about, but it is still a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league. I'd like to have a couple more. I don't Dotson and Corley are risky. I don't know. Maybe it was the Mostert pick. When I look at the wide receivers that are there, Hopkins, Downs, Mitchell. I mean, I like Mitchell. I like Downs. Lockett. They're okay. I will say I do like Shaheed. I was betting Sniper Shaheed. That was a pick. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love my pick after that.
Well, I guess that would be one thing because you did wait a while to get your next receiver. If you have an injury to one of your top 3-4 guys, yeah, Dotson, Corley, iffy, but hey, upside. Team 3 is Keith. What's up, Keith? Tyree Kill, Etienne, Nico, Rashad White, Mari Cooper, AR, Zamir, and Joku, Downs, Shaheed, Warren, Burton, Ray Davis. And then did make the comment, we throw it up, that he said he normally won't take a second tight end, but yes, news that Tucker Craft tore the pec, and he said it came, what did he say? Like came like clean off the bone or something, like something really disgusting. So hey, I was actually in on Musgrave already.
Yeah,
but
same.
I don't know. What do you think of this team overall?
Yeah, I mean, last year when both were healthy, Musgrave was clearly the receiving option there. Tucker Craft only really took over when Musgrave was out, so I still like Musgrave anyways. Not sure. I still don't know if you need Musgrave when you have Njoku, but I'm okay with it. I don't hate it. Hill, Collins, Cooper. Again, I'm going to say kind of like what I say about my team. While I like your 3 receivers, it's like then after that, like down Shaheed, Burton, a little lacking there. I think instead of Zamir White, if you had gone like a Rashee Rice or Brian Thomas or really any of those guys as your 4th wide receiver, I would have liked it a little bit more. Even though I do like Zamir White, and I think Zamir White will be good. It's just, in a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league, and I do like Shaheed, and of course I like Burton. I don't know, kind of like my team. I feel like needed that one more like really strong wide receiver, and then you could have gotten running backs later. But overall, I still think it's a good team. And you did snipe me on Anthony Richardson, by the way.
Oh, well, there you go. It's got to make you feel good, Keith. I agree. I'm big on Zeus, but this is a full PPR league. You probably would prefer to flex a receiver instead of Zamir White, since White's probably not catching too many passes. And you kind of put yourself in the position where either you're flexing Zamir White or he's sitting on your bench and you're having to flex down to Shaheed, which could be okay. But again, you could have got a receiver like a JSN or a Rice or somebody. But overall, good values, I think, pretty much up and down this draft. And then Amal, team 4 today, took Jamar Chase, Evans, Debo. Oh, that's pretty good value. Debo, what, round 3? I guess it's all right. I was thinking it was late round 3. It's early round 3. McBride, Kirk, and Deontay. We have our first official 0 RB team. So the running backs here are Monty, Gus, Zeke, Vidal, Chandler, and Keaton Mitchell with Burrow and Love.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this for a 0 RB team. I mean, again, you got that. This is what's nice about going 0 RB is you got 5 receivers you can feel fairly good about. Because remember, like you just said, you're probably going to be flexing a wide receiver. So, you at least have a guy on your bench for bye weeks or potential injuries, or you can play matchups or whatever. That's nice. And you still got guys like Monty, Gus, Zeke, Vidal. Now, no, those guys aren't going to be world beaters. They're not going to carry your team, but they should at least be good enough. Because your wide receiver should carry your team. And you got McBride, who I was going to take if he had fallen to me. So, yeah, I think this is a very good team. Very good team.
Exactly. I mean, C0 RB executed pretty much on a weekly basis. I think this is a good way to do it because you got RBs that can get you points. Got some upside there. So, yeah, no complaints for me. He likes it too. He's still good about his team. He said he wanted Zamir White, but you can't have everything. Can't have it all. That actually would have been a nice pick to have him instead of Monty. I agree.
Yeah, this team with Zamir White would have been really strong, for sure.
Yeah. All right. And just quick shout out, Vorador in the house. And yes, Clayton is watching, but I guess he was late today to get the notification. Let somebody else have a turn. That's okay once in a while. Ronnie did get in this draft. He's team 5. Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry, and Etienne, Lamar, Pickens, Ridley, Pitts, Curtis Samuel, Devin Singletary, Dobbs, Cooks, Antonio Gibson, Roman Wilson, and Elijah Mitchell.
All right. So, I mean, you got good value on Etienne. I can't complain about that pick, but so in the 3 wide receiver league, you went Jefferson, Henry, Etienne, Lamar. Let's see how the rest of the wide receivers. I mean, Pickens, Ridley, Samuel, Dobbs, Cooks, Wilson. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a struggle at wide receiver. Obviously, you need Pickens to come through this year, of course, and you need Ridley to at least be serviceable, and Samuel to be serviceable, or some of those guys. Could be a struggle there. Yeah, tough in a 3 wide receiver league to go 2 running backs and a QB in the first 4 picks, but you got potential at wide receiver. I mean, this is one of those teams that could go either way, honestly, right? It could end up being like, wow, Pickens broke out. Ridley in Tennessee's doing well, and Curtis Samuel's the wide receiver 1 in Buffalo, and then you're crushing us. Or it could go the other way where it's like, oh, Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson are killing Pickens. Will Levis isn't the guy, and Buffalo is throwing it to 10 different dudes every week. So definitely, a team I feel like could go either way.
Yeah, with Pickens and Ridley there, and both starting for you every week, it'll be a roller coaster ride for sure. And then Pitts, like, who knows? So, hey, got upside. Miguel is at the 6, took the Sun God, and then Kyron Williams, DJ Moore, Tank Dell, Pat Mahomes, middle of round 5, very nice. Paired him with Worthy, even better. Addison, Pollard, Jake Ferguson, Austin Eckler, who we actually got a question about. Put that up in a second. Charbonnet, talked a lot about him. Jalen Wright, Demarcus Robinson, and the Tank.
Yeah, so, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about your wide receivers here. St. Brown, DJ Moore, Tank Dell, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Addison. Kyron is your RB1. You got great value on Mahomes. I think Pollard as an RB2 is fine. You got a tight end I like. Took some shots late. I like the DeMarcus Robinson pick. So I think overall this is a pretty good team. I don't know if it's quite on par with a Mall. Yeah, it's probably right there with like Keith for me. I think a Mall still would be my number 1 at this point.
All right. And he challenged himself in the middle there, the team 6. It's not always an easy spot to pick from. But I think it's solid. Thoughts about Austin Eckler this year?
I mean, I really, really worry that he's dust. He just looked so slow and bad last year. And I know people say the ankle. He hurt his ankle in like week 3. Like, week 4, whatever. Like, really? 10, 11, 12 weeks later, he still can't run because of the ankle? Like, did he need ankle surgery? Because I haven't heard him have any ankle surgery. Like, could his ankle really be affecting him that badly 10 weeks later or 13 weeks later? Like, I feel like it should be healed by then. So I do worry about that, but he'll have a role. He'll be the pass catcher. Yeah, I don't know. He's all right.
I mean, I think it's concerning that, he's getting to that age, almost to the not so magic number of age 30 for running back. Not yet, but close. And he's got a ton of touches the last couple of years. And then there wasn't a ton of interest, really, right? Teams aren't like fighting over each other to sign him this offseason. I think he's just going to be a part-time role player kind of thing. All right, well, let's move on to the next team, which, by the way, Arthur Swanson jumping on, saying thanks for the
Thank you, Arthur. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Which, by the way, maybe one of these days, just thinking about this, once we start ramping up to multiple sleeper drafts, maybe we should do a dynasty just for fun, dynasty starter draft. But let's do this. Twisted Bliss at 7, AJB, Olave, Laporta, T. Higgins, Roma Dunze. Looks like we have another 0 RB team. Went with Swift, Javante, Moss, and Chuba. Interesting last pick there. And then 80, Mitchell, Khalil Shakir, Troy Franklin. Purdy is the quarterback, and Cordero Patterson for depth.
Hey, you just know there's going to be some game where, like, they get to the 1 yard line. They get to the 1 yard line like twice in the game, and both times Cordero Patterson gets the touchdowns. And everybody with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are like, "Wow, what?" Like, you just know this is happening. But as far as the team goes, love that start for sure. I will say again, and I love that, like, after getting 4 wide receivers, you still got Swift, Javante, Zach Moss. I think that's solid. I'll say again, kind of like what I said about my team, but even I think a little more pronounced here because you have Roma Dunze, who I love as a prospect, but he's in this offense with a rookie QB and 3, where they got 3 really good wide receivers. You're kind of lacking that 4th, fifth wide receiver. I think I would have just liked to seen you just commit full, kind of like what Amal did. Just go full 0 RB and take another upside wide receiver like Worthy, like Johnson, like Godwin, whoever you like, Rice, whoever. But I still think overall this is a very good team as well. Again, I'm going to put it in that tier with like Keith and Miguel, still below Amal's team.
I think it's fair. I will say this, good start. I'm starting to kind of talk myself out of T. Higgins. It's not just the whole contract thing. I don't care if he shows up to OTAs. That doesn't even matter. But I don't know. I'm a little nervous there. I don't know if I really trust him as my my wide receiver 2 or even 3. I think where you got him is okay, but I would probably rather have had Tank Dell. And I like Odunze, but I think I would have also rather had Hollywood. But I do think your running backs are pretty good. Overall, it's a good build. And I don't know if I love my build because I did what I always say I shouldn't do, and I do sometimes just for fun. I went QB and tight end early. So I took Bijan, took Jalen Hurts, took Dalton Kincaid, got Ayuk and Devontae Smith, Rashee Rice, and then Jameson Williams as my wide receiver starters. Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, Marshawn Lloyd, Rico Dowdle, and then I got Dontavian Wicks, Demario Douglas, and my new random sleeper, Kevontae Turpin.
I was like, is that who I what? Okay. Yeah, obviously, I mean, Hurts and Kincaid is great, and you got Bijan, and Ayuk and Smith is fine. Hopefully Rice isn't suspended. I know you believe in Jameson. I'm not quite there. I don't know if I want Jameson as my wide receiver 3 if Rice is suspended. And then you're flexing Wicks, Dowdle, Lloyd, Brown. Yeah, this team terrifies me in a 3 wide receiver league. But if Rice doesn't get suspended and Jameson breaks out, I mean, this is kind of like with Ronnie's team. I feel like it could go either way here. It could be like, oh my gosh, Rice didn't get suspended and Jameson Williams finally making that leap, and then you're like crushing us. Or it's like, yeah, Rashee Rice isn't playing half the season and Jameson Williams is doing Jameson Williams things, which is nothing. And then you're not crushing us. So, yeah, another team I feel like could go either way.
Yeah, and I think I like getting Kincaid where I got him, but after already having taken a quarterback and not having a third receiver, maybe. Or even so, if I did that, I was like, okay, I was happy so far. And then I was waffling, and maybe instead of taking Kenneth Walker, I should have just gone receiver and then just filled in running back later. But it's okay. Diesel Power 31 is team 9. Went with Brees, Drake London, DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, Evan Ingram in round 5, Lad McConkey, Brian Thomas, Benson, Corum, Cousins, Pearsall, Schultz, Braylon Allen, and Justin Herbert. We have a very young core here. This would be a killer dynasty startup team.
Yes. I will say I mostly like the start. I like Evan Ingram a lot, but I don't think you need to take Evan Ingram there. You probably could have waited and gotten Evan Ingram. I mean, he usually doesn't even go before guys like George Kittle, so you probably could have waited at least 3 more rounds and gotten Evan Ingram. At least 2 more rounds and gotten Evan Ingram. But I like what you did here. I like Brees Hall first, and then just load up on young upside wide receivers and get 5 of them. You don't have to be right on all 5, right? Like if London is what we hope he is, and DK Metcalf does DK Metcalf things, and Zay Flower takes a leap, you just need one of like McConkey and Brian Thomas to be okay. So I like that. I don't know if I like Trey Benson, Blake Corum, and Braylon Allen as my only running backs behind Brees Hall, because we're talking about 3 rookies who are behind. Well, first of all, Braylon Allen is the handcuff to Brees Hall, so he's only giving you value if something happens to Brees Hall. So now we're talking about 2 rookies who are behind 2 established running backs in James Conner and Kyron Williams. So, yeah, that's pretty dicey. Your RB2 to start the season could legitimately be getting you like 1 to 2 points. That's not good enough.
Yeah, I would say, like I said, if this dynasty team really good. If this was the best ball team, even so, okay, fine. There's a path to those guys like Corum, right? Could be a league winner. Depends. In a redraft league, I think the last four picks kind of just wasted picks. And again, Schultz would be fine if you didn't already have a tight end. Braden Allen might not even see the field. Herbert's not necessary. Pearsall, not worth a pick in redraft. So yeah, and I don't even love the Brian Thomas pick. I would rather have Jason Watson. So very good for a different format, I would say. And then Tony, Team 10, got Puka, Barkley, Pacheco, Kelsey, Connor, Murray,
Ooh.
Jason, Sutton,
Right.
Lockett, Spears, Palmer, Irving, Bateman, Mooney. So we waited till round 7 to get the wide receiver 2. Is that a little too late?
I think so. I mean, you're looking at Puka, which is great, but then JSN, Sutton, Lockett. I mean, you got JSN and Lockett, which feels like only probably one of those guys can actually thrive, if either. Palmer, Bateman, Mooney. I mean, you took some shots at wide receiver. You did what you had to do. The other issue for me here, like, I think I'm okay with going Puka, Barkley, Pacheco. Even Kelsey. I think the issue for me here is the Connor pick. Like, Connor, I thought was like, I didn't even like Connor in the 5th round before they drafted Trey Benson. Now I definitely don't like Connor in the 5th round. I think you should have definitely gone wide receiver here. Hollywood Brown, Terry McLaurin, one of those, even Jaden Reed, if you like Jaden Reed, one of those guys for sure. And then I like Kyler, but again, I think when guys like Anthony Richardson are still on the board, and Dak, you could probably wait on Kyler there. So I think really the pick that for me that kind of killed this was the James Conner pick. I don't think James Conner should be going in the 5th round, and especially in a 3 wide receiver league when you only have 1 wide receiver, I would definitely be targeting wide receiver there.
Yeah, I mean, you had 2 running backs, didn't need Connor there, so agree. Receiver should have been taken a little bit earlier. I don't think there were any, other than Connor, any egregious reaches on individual picks, but yeah, you got to look at the big picture with the build. And then it's Joe Castles. Went with Garrett Wilson, JT, Cup, Neighbors, Mixon, McLaurin, Watson, B Rob, Jerome Ford, Jacoby Myers, Goddard, and Tua late, and then Polk and QJ late.
Yeah, I'll start by saying I really like these wide receivers. I mean, Garrett Wilson, look, even if Cooper Kupp isn't vintage Cooper Kupp, he'll still be fine. Neighbors, I think, should at least be fine in that offense. You got McLaurin, you got Watson. I mean, you got 5, I think, really solid wide receivers. And then you got JT. And look, again, okay, I actually like Mixon more than Connor this year because he's going to be the lead back in Houston. I don't know if you need Mixon in round 5. But then again, if we switch like Terry McLaurin and Mixon, I mean, I guess it's the same team. So I guess it gets past there. I like Goddard late for sure. I like waiting and just taking Tua is fine. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think this was a very good draft. Again, I'm going to probably put him in that second tier. I think Amal's team is still the best, but I'll put him in that second tier of teams.
Yeah, this team is a little risky because let's face it, Cup has some risk. He's got to stay healthy, and so round 3 Cup isn't my favorite. Round 4 Neighbors is a little iffy, but I think overall this is a very solid build because you got McLaurin and Watson at receiver. I mean, I think you got enough talent there. And then I like B-Rob as your RB3, even if I don't love Mixon as your RB2. I like getting QBT, tight end late there. Yeah, very solid job. And then Brian Ibarra went with Gibbs, Harrison, Jacobs, Josh Allen, Hollywood Reed, Keon Coleman to go with Josh Allen. And then Brooks, Najee, Bowers, Leggett, Chubb, Wandale, and Javon Baker.
Yeah, so I like that. I like this start a lot. I mean, Jacobs is your RB2 with Gibbs is fantastic. And you got Marvin Harrison, Hollywood Brown, Jaden Reed. Keon Coleman wouldn't have been my pick there necessarily. But I mean, when you look at maybe. I mean, you look at the other guys on the board, Sutton, Jameson, I know you like him. Curtis is okay. Like, maybe he's fine there. Maybe he's fine there, actually. I like that you got Brooks. I think Brooks is going to be good this year, second half. Najee, I said it in the video. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not. I think it's fine. It's whatever. I'm just not dealing with Arthur Smith. I will say one thing here, and I'll even say Chubb in round 12, fine. You want to gamble on Chubb in round 12, that's fine. I think one thing I would have done with this team, though, after taking Bowers, is I would have definitely gotten – this is a team I definitely would have gotten a second tight end. Like Brock Bowers, like the prospect, like his potential, but we can't ignore the fact that he's in that Raiders offense, and he's either going to be Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. That does not excite me. So I would like if you could have landed Musgrave in the last round, I think that would have really pushed this team over the top. But I still think this is a very good team. I think it's probably the closest team for me as far as competing with Amal's team. I mean, you got the QB1, you got very good running backs, you got very good wide receivers. Yeah, your tight end might be a struggle, but yeah, I think this team is right there neck and neck with Amal.
Yeah, with this team, I agree. A lot of talent here, a little too rookie dependent for my taste, and I say that not just because you got a lot of rookies, and of course Marvin Harrison, no problem there, but it's like I don't love Coleman, Bowers, and Brooks. Again, it's a situation there. Are we sure Bowers is going to be worth starting week in and week out in that Raiders offense? And are we sure Brooks is going to be ready to contribute early in the season or at all this season? So risky. And also, are we sure Keon Coleman is going to be any good? But obviously, you got Josh Allen. You're in on that, so that's fine. Take that risk. He was a decent value there. So risky, but upside. And that's the name of the game, right? It's always about getting value, the right time, right place, and shooting for that upside, looking forward. That's why we do this. All right. And we're going to do it again next week. So if you didn't get in today, just make sure you got notifications on. And also, Underdog, we're going to be doing another one of those drafts on Sunday. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you can do that. And if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, of course, do that now. Still got time. You get up to $250 now in bonus cash plus free picks. And there's always specials. We talked about this on the baseball stream. So go ahead and check it out now. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.